Hello everyone, Basic Ollie here. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another video. Today I thought I'd decide to make a how-to endurance guide on iRacing in 2023. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Ollie. I run a channel called Basic Ollie, and I have been endurance racing on iRacing since January 2021. Not the longest time in the world, no, but in that short amount of time of about 2.5 years, I've managed to rack over 1,000 hours of endurance racing alone. We have won in my team called BRT. We have won special events. We've won Bathurst. We've won Nürburgring. We've won NASCAR special events. We've won all sorts of things. But endurance racing wise, we've become division champions in Div 1 and the 6-hour series. We've won 12-hour races. We've done all sorts of stuff. Now, does that mean we're the best team in the world? Far, far from it. Nowhere near. But with all our experience and all my experience that I've gained over the last 2.5 years with endurance racing, hopefully I can make a guide for you boys and girls that will actually help you and make you better understand how to essentially do endurance racing and iRacing, because it is without a doubt the best thing that you can do on the service, in my opinion anyways. So if you're looking how to get into endurance racing, basically how to do it on iRacing, then hopefully this guide is the one for you. So I'm going to break it down into 5 stages. So we'll start off with number 1, which is picking the right car for the event. Now, when it comes to the right car for the event on iRacing, there are many different events across iRacing, special event-wise, but normally there'll be multi-class races and sometimes there'll be single-class races. But in this guide, we're going to focus on both of them as such. But one thing I'm going to touch on straight away is actually the Spa 24-hour, which is actually a single class, so it's only GT3. The reason I'm touching on that is because when this video is being made, the Spa 24 is actually happening at that weekend. So, Spa 24-hour, you want to do it on iRacing. You liked it, you looked at it, you've seen everyone else, preparing for it. You're like, right, I want to jump in and have some fun. This looks like it could be absolutely great. Right, first thing you need to do is make sure you pick the right car for the event. Okay, the car needs to be stable, fast, and make you feel comfortable for the duration of your stint. There is no point, and I mean no point, picking a car that's slightly faster if you're not comfortable driving it for long periods of time. A car that is scary to drive but is slightly quicker is not worth it. You will find out the hard way, as we have done many a times before. You can check what car's fastest for the event by going on setup shop sites and seeing what times they post. A good one for this is actually VRS. I normally check VRS to see what kind of times they are posting, but normally the iRacing bot's pretty close these days. So again, might just be down to driver preference when you test drive them. You can also check the iRacing forums as well for BOP updates. This can be crucial. iRacing recently have been doing BOP updates the week before, and they normally do a BOP update on the Wednesday before the event as well. So always worth checking the forums. You should always work with your teammates on this as well, finding a car. If there's only, let's just say there's 4 of you in a team, and 3 of you are happy with it, but 1 person isn't, then I would highly suggest going back to the drawing board and try and find something else. And if there isn't a compromise, then go with a car that most people are happy with. Always try and find a car that every single person is happy to drive. If you try and just go for that car, where 3 or 4 out of people out of it, and that person gets in the car and they're not happy with it, and they end up making a crash or spinning out or anything like that, then it's, it'll ruin your whole race. So I'd always try and recommend to get a car that every single person in your team is more comfortable with, to be honest with you. If there's more than 1 car you're happy with, do some tests on which car works out best strategy-wise for the race. Some cars have slightly better fuel usage leading up to the race, and being able to do 1 extra lap per stint can make a huge, huge difference in an endurance race. So do be wary of that. On iRacing, especially in 2023, fuel usage is actually more important than you'd think, because tyre changing and filling up your car is done at the same time. So yes, make sure that you do pick the right car in terms of fuel if you can. Right, number 2 then is picking the right strategy. So you've worked with your teammates and you've done some testing yourself in the car, and you've found the right car that you like. Now it's time to pick the right strategy with that car. It sounds easy enough, but it can actually be quite difficult. When it comes to iRacing strategies, there's several different things you can do, but like I said earlier, these days it's all about fuel. So what you need to do, in what we've done personally and how we do it, is you need to do what we call as a push lap versus a fuel saving lap. So one lap where it's kind of just flat out, and then one lap where you're just kind of lifting and coasting. And then you want to compare the two, see what the lap time difference is, and see what fuel you used on the push lap and what fuel you used on the saving lap. Over that, if you do it more often, say if you do 10 laps of pushing, 10 laps of fuel saving, you can start to get like a general idea of how much time you'd lose if you went for a more of a fuel saving strategy rather than a push one. And you can see just how much quicker not pushing is, or pushing is, sorry, compared to fuel saving. Do bear in mind though as well, when you do this kind of thing, when you do fuel saving, it actually does help with the tyres as well, because you don't tend to be on the brakes as much because you're lifting a bit, so your braking distance is actually shortened, so your tyre wear could actually reduce. So it's a bit of a top tip that fuel saving does actually reduce tyre wear. I found personally quite a bit. So if you're struggling with tyre wear in an endurance race, lifting and coasting can actually be quite beneficial, and the tyres do kind of come back to you. You do get rewarded nearer the end of a stint. So that's what you need to do. An example of this is basically when it comes to fuel saving is, well, let's have a look. Say if you say there's a whole, say if you're pushing and you're fuel saving, and if you do a push lap, you do a push the whole stint, your stint ends in 59 minutes. So you'd manage to do, let's say, 25 laps, and that is a 59-minute stint. But if you fuel save, you can then do 26 laps, and that's a whole hour. Now, over a 6-hour stint, or a 6-hour endurance race, I should say, you've already saved a pit stop. So fantastic, awesome. So that means you only have to do 5 stops compared to the person who's pushing doing 6 stops. Excellent. You're going to save about 40-45 seconds with fuel saving. But what if fuel saving is about a second per lap that you're losing? So you're fuel saving thinking, oh, excellent. You know, I'll save a stint at the end. We won't have to pit. That'll save us 45 seconds a minute, so on and so forth. Well, if you look at it, mathematically, you're already losing out. Because if you're losing 25 seconds per stint, and the pit stop says, say, 45 seconds, over 2 stints, you've already lost your advantage. So it's not worth it. It's all about how much time you can actually save from fuel saving and pushing, and whether that pit stop at the end that you save is worth the fuel saving versus the pushing. It's something that you need to find out. You'll need to do some calculations and just basically break it down and see what you can do. Normally, I find just opening an Excel spreadsheet and just comparing the times together is normally something you can do. You can normally do it with your teammates as well. It can be quite fun actually figuring out exactly what to do for endurance race in terms of strategy, but always bear in mind in iRacing that fuel is absolutely crucial. So there's a prime example of, checking push laps and fuel saving laps. So please do bear that in mind. Number 3 is probably one of the most talked about things when it comes to endurance racing, and that is managing traffic. Now, when it comes to managing traffic on iRacing, doesn't matter if you're multi-class or single class. When it comes to blue flags, it is not Formula 1. It is not Formula 1, okay? The blue flags are simply advisory, okay? So when it pops up saying blue flags, there's someone behind you that is going to lap you, essentially. It sounds harsh, but you do not have to get out the way. Now, obviously, I would highly advise that you just try and let the person go at the easiest opportunity, because it completely saves getting in a ruckus, shall we say, with the overtaking driver / team. Because if it's a long race like a 24-hour, you want to make friends. You don't want to make enemies, especially with people that are overtaking you. It is their job to do it safely. They have to do it safely, of course. And as long as you just stick to the racing line, you will be absolutely fine. Or if they're flashing to say, look, I'm going to go up the inside, just make sure you keep an eye on your mirrors. And if they go for the move, just kind of let them go. There is absolutely 0 point in blocking them. It makes no sense. It rolls them up. It will roll you up. You both lose time. It just affects both your races negatively. I'd highly recommend not doing it. But do not be one of those teams that just spams blue flags in the chat, or screams blue flags on the mic. Doesn't mean a thing. You'll just annoy yourselves and everyone else in the lobby if you're just spamming it. Now, when it comes to multi-class racing and overtaking slower cars, it can get very, very high rate as such. People can get very, very angry with the way overtaking cars, LMDH on LMP2s or GT3s or whatnot. My best advice for you when it comes to overtaking in multi-class races, so not Spa 24, say like maybe like the Nürburgring or Daytona. When it comes to the faster class, it is their job to overtake safely. It is their job to overtake safely. As the slower class, if you just stick to your racing line and do exactly what you need to do, you'll be absolutely fine. There's no blame they could possibly take on you whatsoever. You're doing exactly what you should do. Stay predictable, stay consistent, stay on your racing line. The only time you really should go off the racing line or anything like that is if it's clear someone is going to go up the right hand side, they flash the light saying that I'm going to overtake him, going for the dive bomb, and then you kind of just concede the position because you can see they can go for it. If they are just about to eye up a move and you can see they're going to dive bomb on the inside, and you still stick to your racing line and you have an accident, is it the overtaking car's fault? Yes, in my opinion, because they're the ones that have got to overtake it safely, but you are still a bit of a plonker, in my opinion, because you could see it coming, you see the car flashing, you knew what was going to happen, but you ignored it anyways, and then you're both out of the race for it. So please, 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 as a slower car, keep an eye on your mirrors, stick to your racing line, always keep an eye out for any sort of sends, and faster class cars, if you're going to overtake a slower class car, you must do it safely. Please ensure that you overtake at the right time. It is not worth the risk. Yeah, it is, honestly, it's that simple. I know multi-class racing can be really complicated and overtaken. There's so many incidents, but if people just stuck to that simple philosophy of just overtaking safely and leaving the slower class on the racing line, yeah, things would be a lot easier. It's never that easy, but yeah, makes a huge difference. One thing I should also mention as well, when it comes to multi-class racing, sometimes the braking distance between cars can be huge. So do make sure that you are aware, say if you're in a GT3 going against an LMP2 or LMDH, just beware of the braking point distances. They can be hugely different. So just an FYI, definitely worth checking your braking points compared to theirs and seeing exactly where they brake into like big braking zones, let's say like turn 1 or something like that. Okay, so number 4 is picking your teammate. So you've picked the car, you've tested the strategies, you've learned about multi-class racing and blue flags and whatnot, and how to actually race in endurance racing when it comes to other cars being around you. Now you think to yourself, right, I really want to do this event. What about teammates? Well, when it comes to picking your teammates in endurance racing, having a good team or teammates as such is crucial. Does a good teammate mean they have to be setting fastest lap after fastest lap? Absolutely not. They just need to be cool, calm, and understand exactly what is needed from them. Fast laps do not always get you the win. I cannot emphasize this enough. Fast laps do not always get you the win. They don't mean anything at the end of the day. Yes, you can set purple lap after purple lap. If you get a meatball, what the hell is the point in that? You'll be racing together for a long period of time, so make sure you get along with them and have a good understanding of how each other drives. So lots of people will have many different driving styles. So if you're questioning what they're doing, just kind of let them do their thing. But as long as they're happy with the car and you're not causing any damage to it, and the laps are consistent and they're not doing anything crazy, just let them crack on with it. As long as they understand how you drive and understand how they drive, then you shouldn't have any issues. You should be absolutely fine. I'd always try and recommend as well, if you can, when it comes to teammates, try and find someone who has similar pace to yourself. We found in our endurance races, when we have teammates that are actually similar pace, it's actually really good because you can actually just push each other on and go for the fastest laps, which is always good fun. So if you can find a teammate as similar to your pace as possible, I find it is a huge help. If you do have teammates that are significantly slower or significantly faster, it can be a bit of a pain because it can be quite demoralizing either way, because you can do a really good stint and then someone else jumps in and it just completely ruins it. I know it's a team effort, but as a driver you can feel a bit disheartened if someone else comes in and then you just lose all the time you spent hours and hours gaining. But it also goes the same way, you know, if you've put all your effort, heart and soul into it and then someone jumps in the car and they're just a second a lap quicker, morally, mentally, it can have it can play on your mind a little bit and it can be really demoralizing over, say like a 24-hour stint, or 24-hour race. So try and be as close on pace to each other as possible. And try not to make teams with a huge pace difference between drivers because it can have an effect. I'll say when it comes to picking teammates as well, most importantly, I'd say it's just make sure you guys enjoy it. Make sure you're having fun when you're doing it. If there's a mixture of people just, who's taking it so seriously and people that are just, having a laugh and messing about, it can cause tension again. So make sure that the teammates that you do pick or the teammates that you are with, make sure you guys have fun. Most of these events on iRacing, the special events, are only once a year. So make sure you actually do enjoy them and make the most of them. Because you'll be kicking yourself if you don't. So make sure that you're there. There is no better feeling, in my opinion, on this game or this service as such than winning a special event or endurance race on iRacing with your teammates. It's great. It really is fantastic. There's a huge sense of accomplishment afterwards, and it is just great that So do ensure that if you are doing your races, find some good teammates, and that doesn't necessarily mean quick. Just someone that you enjoy racing with. It is as simple as that. Okay, point number 5, probably the least talked about or mentioned really when it ever comes to these kind of guides, but probably one of the most important, especially whilst you're driving, and that is simply consistency. Without a doubt, it's the most ignored thing when it comes to endurance racing. There is 0 point in whacking a purple lap after purple lap if you're just going to bin it in a stint. A 30-lap stint with 1 minute 30 flats, let's say, with no meatball, is much better than a 30-lap stint with 1 minute 28 and a 15-minute meatball by the end of it. You've just completely thrown away all your hard work. It is pointless. Consistency is key. We have won many special events, and in those special events, we've not put it on pole, we've not set the fastest lap, but consistently we put in lap after lap after lap, and we don't make errors, and it really pays dividend. It's so rewarding. You do really end up with a hell of a result at the end of endurance race if you just stay consistent. You'd be absolutely amazed by how many teams on iRacing end up crashing out through a 6-hour race or longer, and then you just pick up the positions. Consistency is without a doubt one of the best things you can do. Now when it comes to consistency, should it mean that you just don't push during your stint? No, you can absolutely push if you wish to, but just always make sure that you're not on the edge of binning it. If you're on the edge of binning it, and especially in any sort of endurance race and iRacing, I should say, it's always worth just backing off just a tad, maybe like 5%, just to ensure that you don't bin it. Because you've got to remember, if you do bin it, it's not just you that loses out, it's you and your teammates as well. So I'd always recommend just that when it comes to endurance racing, you don't have to be 100% all the time, because that is when mistakes are made. So try and just back off a little bit, because racing consistency is key, and always try to race like 90% rather than 100 or something like that. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, 99%, about half the time, if not more, when we do these endurance races, from experience, the team with the fastest lap or the fastest driver doesn't win, because they push all the time and they do end up binning it. So keep it calm, do your laps, stay consistent, and you'll be amazed by how many positions you'll simply gain by not putting it in the wall. I cannot emphasize that enough. Now, those are my top 5 tips on how to endurance race on iRacing in 2023, or to be honest with you, in any racing game or sim, really. One bonus point I would like to point out as well, this is more towards iRacing other than any other sim, I think, is having a spotter. If you've got someone that can spot for you or do the fuel or work out the strategy whilst you're actually racing, that would be absolutely brilliant. It really does help out a lot. Someone who can actually adjust what strategy you need to do on the fly and warn you about what other cars are doing is brilliant, because it really does, again, help with that consistency, because you don't need to worry about that or what other cars are doing around you. Your spotter can do that. So if you can get a spotter for the duration of the event, then yes, I'd highly recommend it. But if there's anything else you'd like to know, any other tips, if you want me to make a part 2 or anything like that, please do let me know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this does help you out. I've not really done a guide like this before, but hopefully I've covered every single point that I can think of. But if there's anything else you want me to cover, please do let me know. But yeah, thanks very much for watching. Leave a like on the way out, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you for the next one. Take care. Ta-da.